Welcome to the Freak Show podcast, hosted by Sam Thurmond and Jacqueline Steele Thurmond. Sam is an Air Force Academy graduate and veteran who, after his service and 2 deployments, escaped the 9-to-5 grind by building a real estate investing business that has, to date, accounted for over $50 million in real estate transactions. Jacqueline is an award-winning musician, former owner of boutique branding agency Steele International, real estate investor, and designer for luxury multi-million-dollar homes.
We are so excited to welcome you to the Freak Show podcast, where we center our content around the frequency of belief.
Why? Because when we overcome fear and self-doubt, basically by getting out of our own way, we can make the impossible possible.
And in this podcast, we are going to share our favorite mindset tools and life lessons that have completely transformed our lives and businesses. So without further ado, let's get freaky. Welcome to the Freak Show. This is episode 15. We are back. Today we are going to talk about, excuse my language, getting shit done.
Get ish done.
Yep, I'm Jacqueline Steele Thurmond. This is my husband, Sam Thurmond, and we are so excited that you are here listening. We have 7 points that we want to talk about. Have people talked about in podcasts before productivity? Have they talked? I just had a latte and it's hitting. Have people talked about productivity in podcasts before? Yes. Is it an overdone topic? Yes. He's laughing at me because this caffeine is hitting hard. But I think it's really important. You're going to get me so off topic.
This damn episode done is what it sounds like.
5 minutes. I don't drink a lot of caffeine. And so when I do get a straight up hit, it slams. Yeah. It slaps.
I'm jealous.
Yeah. But we have 7 points that we want to make. And I don't want to beat a dead horse or do things that people have already done. But I think you and I over the last month have been incredibly productive. And it's because we have battened down the hatches. We have had better boundaries and we have been focusing our energy in a much more efficient way. And so I think it's important to talk about those things because I think it's really helpful. And people always want to know how to be more productive, right?
Right. Yes, correct.
Okay. Do you want to talk about point number 1 then?
Yeah, we're gonna have to slow down the speed of the track so people can. Everybody's like, "Am I listening to this 1.5 speed?"
I didn't really even realize I was talking so fast.
Okay, so what was your question? Anything to add around that? I think
No. I said, do you want to take point number 1?
Oh, okay. All right. Yes, I will take point number 1. And as point number 1, it is putting first things first.
Yep.
So
classic Stephen Covey principle.
Right. And that's kind of, I guess point 1 and point 2 are similar in a little bit. But putting first things first, it's prioritizing, racking and stacking what you have to do, what your tasks are, what your goals are, and making sure that those things that have the biggest impact. I feel like...
Sorry, my leg's shaking too.
Making sure that
I'm like an addict. Give me more.
There's a couple ways to go about it. You've got the whole eat the frog principle, where you take the biggest thing that you don't want to do and you do that first to get it out of the way, because that builds momentum. It gives you a sense of accomplishment because you did the thing you didn't want to do. But at the same time, that's not always what's going to have the biggest impact on your business or your life or whatever it is. But ultimately, you want to do whatever's going to create a lot of momentum for you, and whatever's going to have the biggest impact, you want to do that first.
Mm-hmm. And ignore all the other stuff. And that's the end of the episode. No, just kidding. But Stephen Covey, and you're right, point 1 and point 2 go perfectly together, because point 2 is the 80-20 rule. And that is the principle of how 20% of, I'm not going to be able to explain
20% of
now.
activities or tasks result in 80%
of your results.
Results, production, whatever.
Yeah. And so in order to get shit done.
Pareto principle, is that what it's called?
Yeah, something like that, if that's not it. But the importance of this is having clarity around what you need to do. So it's easy to say, put first things first. It's easy to get behind the 80-20 rule. But what I have found for myself is even though I know these things, if I don't have clarity, like a very clear understanding of what those things are, I still flail and waste a bunch of time. So something that helps me is on Sundays or on Monday mornings, I map out my week and all of the things that I want to accomplish within the week. And that's getting me toward what I want to accomplish within the month or within the year. And that keeps me focused. I would say for people who struggle with prioritizing, either you have too many priorities or you can't figure out any specific priorities. This may be controversial, but you may be in the wrong job. You may not have the right goal. And I say that because when you are in the right job, when you do have a goal that really aligns with what you truly want, I think seeing how to take the next step becomes very easy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think you could summarize the whole episode and it is one of the points, but when it comes down to getting things done, it is to simplify it. Simplify by prioritizing, simplify by identifying what has the most impact, or has the greatest outcome, and just focusing on those things and just simplifying in that way.
It makes getting stuff done a lot faster and a lot easier.
Because so much of the hang up are the distractions along the way.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you think about this as like a circle within a circle within a circle, in the nucleus, in the innermost part of the circle is in the nucleus, if you've seen Nacho Libre, in the innermost part of these circles is your priorities, right? You have to identify clearly what your priorities are and what steps you need to take in order to completely accomplish that priority. And then the next circle out, I would say, is creating a zone in which you have as small amount of distraction as possible. And so I said, put your damn phone away, because our phones and even our computers, if we're constantly checking our email, they are so distracting. And I will be thinking of the next thing I need to do. And then all of a sudden a text message comes in. And then if I look at my phone, then I forget the next thing that I was going to do. So if I really want to focus on something, I put my phone away from me. Another great thing to help eliminate distraction is using a timer. And sometimes I have this little strawberry timer that I got on Amazon. Sometimes I will put that on for an hour, 30 minutes, or whatever increment you want to do, and completely focus, like a racehorse that has the little blinder things on either of their eyes. I focus on the task, and you will be astounded at how much you can do when you eliminate distractions. And again, this circles back to like when you're doing something you love, or when you're working towards something that's really aligned with where you want to be, it's very easy to do this because it feels good to do it. If you are working towards something that's out of alignment, or it is just not what you want to be doing, it's very hard to do this because you're not motivated. So if you are in party number 2, I would highly encourage you to either switch jobs or change up your goal or refine the dream you're working towards so that it puts you in a position to be excited about what you're doing, because then getting shit done becomes so much easier.
I agree.
Okay. Another thing that I think is important to talk about is monetizing your time. And, everybody has heard this saying, but time is money. And if you are wasting a bunch of time checking emails or flipping between web browsers or getting distracted and ADDing through different tasks and bouncing all over the place, you're wasting time, and you're essentially wasting potential money that you could be earning, right? Oh, I'm about to sneeze, Sam. Mango. Okay. And you don't want to be wasting money, right? Right?
That's right. But I think I look at, you're not wrong in what you're saying, but when I say monetizing time, where the way that I take that is, or the way I think we intended it was
putting a value on your time. I need to lay off the caffeine.
You do. Is putting a value on the, not just on your time, but on the task, putting a value on the task of what you're using your time to do. So is it a $10 an hour task? Is it a $100 an hour task? $1,000, $10,000 an hour task? And putting a value on that. So then when you look at it, if you go through your day and all you've done is 90% $10 an hour tasks, then that's ultimately going to be your outcome. But if you spent your day doing $1,000 an hour tasks, $10,000 an hour tasks, that's going to be your income. So it simplifies how you prioritize, and also in that process identifies what you need to either create a process around or who you need to hire and what they should be doing, because it's not worth your time to spend to spend your day on those $10 an hour tasks.
If your time is worth $1,000 an hour.
Right.
Yeah.
So, maybe you're at a point where you're still learning and you're growing and toward whatever you want to do, and you don't have that experience yet. So, you have tasks that are, $50 an hour tasks or $100 an hour tasks. Well, then you focus on those. And then when you get to the point where you are capable of leveraging your time to create more and more opportunity, that number will grow. But focusing on, and I am just as guilty of doing this too, because there are so many little $10 an hour tasks that come along with looking for real estate, buying real estate, remodeling houses, managing rental properties, selling them, yada, yada. There's so many little tasks that go along with that. Oftentimes I catch myself doing those tasks just because they need to get done, whereas I need to have someone else that I pay, $20 an hour to go do 30 of those tasks, today. And I go focus on finding a deal, finding an opportunity, those $10,000 tasks, whatever it is, an hour. And ultimately that translates to the outcome. That's how you determine and you prioritize and forecast what how productive your day was.
That was beautifully said. When you first read that, I don't know if it was a meme or it was something that was shared on social media about $10 an hour tasks. Like if you're spending your time on $10 an hour tasks, something. But you shared it with me, and I want to say it was when we still lived in Georgia. Mm-hmm. And it was so, what's the right word when you are faced with something you don't really want to be faced with? Not activating, but I read it and I realized.
Struck a chord with you?
Yeah. I was spending so much of my time on tasks that needed to be done, but in the grand scheme of things were the least important. Mm-hmm. And that mindset shift of like these $10 an hour tasks forced me to hire someone, but then also it forced me to look at what I was doing. This was before we had Roman, and go, is this the 80-20 principle? Is this 20% of what I'm doing getting me 80% of the results? Mm-hmm. And in so many ways, I was not doing that. So it really helped me like tighten up the ship.
Yeah.
Then the next caveat of that is when you monetize your time is when you have children, I like to ask myself, is this worth time away from Roman? And we pay for someone to watch our son. And so is this task worth what I'm paying this person to watch my son when I could be watching him or whatever? Is this really worth my time? And am I making good use of this time that I'm paying someone else to watch our son? And that has been confronting as well. That's the word I was looking for. Confronting. And look, it's uncomfortable when we're talking about productivity, when we're talking about getting shit done. It's uncomfortable to confront patterns that we have gotten comfortable in. But if we really want to expand beyond them, we have to confront them and we have to get honest with ourselves. And I think, we've talked about the first quarter of this year and some of the challenges that we've faced in past episodes, but it was so confronting that it forced me to completely reevaluate how I was approaching my workday. And as a result, I feel like I have become 10 times more productive.
Mm-hmm. Well, we can confuse busyness with productivity, and they're not the same thing. You hear that a lot.
Yeah.
And being able to look at something and put a dollar figure on it when it comes to business is just really super helpful to help you identify that 80-20.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about this a little bit already, but number 5 on the list is simplicity. And this is really, to me, the best,
You're so good at this.
It's the way that I work the best is to set a goal, identify the activities involved with achieving that goal, and then putting a daily task or a weekly or monthly, how often they need to be accomplished down, and then checking them off as I go. So if I have to talk to, I've shared this before, but if I have to talk to if I have to analyze 100 deals before I find one that works for us, that means I need to talk to, 30 wholesalers. And in order to talk to 30 wholesalers, I need to reach out via text or email or social media X number of times. So I can break that down, each of those tasks into a daily goal. So I talk to 4 people a day. That means I end up analyzing 30 deals a day, and then that results in 1 deal, 2 deals, 3 deals a month, whatever it is. So simplifying the tasks, even though those tasks are relatively simple, the yield that they bring is very large. Whereas if I spend my day turning on utilities or canceling insurance or setting up lawn service, whatever it is, I'm not getting a return out of those other than the fact that they just need to be done. Mm-hmm. They're not making money. But these other tasks that are relatively take the same amount of time and the same level of complexity, by doing those, they pay off 10x.
Yeah.
So as opposed to having, what makes it so powerful is, as opposed to waking up and saying, okay, what do I need to do to be productive today? I already know that. And as long as I check that box off, I know roughly what my outcome is going to be and can project
and you
that.
are so good at this. You are such a good micro thinker. I think I am much more of a macro thinker, but in studying the way you do things.
I feel like that was like a backwards compliment. Or
no, it was not a backhanded compliment at all.
You're such a good small thinker. I'm a much more broad thinker.
No, I don't know. No.
I'm joking. I know what you meant.
Okay. I did not mean that as a backhanded compliment in any shape or form, because you've inspired me so much to approach my workday differently, because I used to be so broad with what I was doing that I ended up doing $10 an hour tasks all day long. But you have taught me through studying you and through asking you questions and through watching how you create the outline of your day, you have helped me understand how to do the same. And so, for instance, I have several projects that I'm working on right now that I am just bursting at the seams with excitement about. But I want to give you guys some examples of or a couple of other examples of what this can look like in your day-to-day. So let's say you want to write a book. It can feel very daunting to sit down and go, okay, I'm going to start writing a book. However, if you break that down and say, okay, my book is going to be 10 chapters. Okay, I'm going to outline what each chapter is going to be about, and I'm going to title it. And then under that chapter, I'm going to have 5 bullet points that I want to incorporate into the meat and potatoes of this chapter. And then I'm going to have one line at the end that's able to summarize that entire chapter. And you go step by step and you drill it down from macro to micro. You could do the same thing if you were, let's say, creating an app. You go, okay, I want to create it. I have an idea to create this app. What do I need to do first? Well, I need to have a general idea of what I want this app to do, right? And then you go, okay, now I'm going to find somebody who can create the app. Then you find somebody who can create the app. Then you create designs within the app. Then you create the user experience within the app. Then you create, the meat and potatoes content of what is going to be inside of the app and put that in. Then you do testing. Then you release it. There are ways that you can figure out how to drill down all the specifics of what can seem like a very daunting task and make it very bite-sized. There's a saying, and it starts with a question. It says, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And I think that with big goals and big dreams and big projects like the ones we're taking on, Sam, it has become so much easier to get good at finishing out those projects by taking one bite at a time. Mm-hmm. Okay. I think the last point we need to make is work like a lion.
Yeah. And
I love this one.
Yeah. I think the gist behind working like a lion is that, again, we steal ideas from other people that we follow. But the conversation was about.
Was it a podcast that we listened to?
It was like a reel.
Oh, okay.
But the whole concept was people feel, or maybe it was podcast. People feel like if I put 8 hours in, I have to put in 8 hours or 10 hours or 12 hours a day, and that generates 12 hours of output. And while that may be true in like a 9 to 5,
it's not.
Where you're,
there's
it
no
isn't
way.
True.
There's no way. Our brains we're not created to be focused for that long.
So at any rate, it's basically saying to sprint. And the way that I relate to that is I have a lot of times when I'm being my most productive in a groove where I'm being my most productive is I have what I call a power hour in the morning. And what that is I can get 90% of the things I need to get done in a day within an hour. If I just sit down, put the phone away, and have the list of the things that I need to get done, I can pretty much knock everything out within an hour. And then that opens up the rest of the day for networking, creativity, whatever those really big dollar amount tasks are or concepts are, which are like networking and being creative and those sorts of things, developing new ideas. Those are the really big ticket items. If I sprint in the morning, I can get that stuff done so fast, and it just opens up so much more bandwidth. And the key to it is trying to get it done before the rest of the world wakes up. So having that hour from 6 to 7 a.m. or 6:30 to 7:30 before the phone starts blowing up, the emails start coming, everybody's asking you to do things. If I can get that hour in, I can get all of that stuff done within an hour. But the converse of that is if I don't get it done in the morning, then it does take me the rest of the day to get that stuff done because it's so, there's so much less focus because there's so much more stuff going on. So when I think work like a lion, that's kind of how I perceive it, is like run in sprints, sit down, hard focus for a short period of time, and then you kind of can sit back, relax, open yourself up to opportunity, creativity, meeting new people, those sorts of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's how I interpret it too. And I love the phrase work like a lion because I feel like it's very memorable. Although I have to say, male lions don't really do a whole lot. It's generally the female lions. So I do have some hang-ups on this. But overall, I think it's important that we balance sprints with rest. And I think you and I in the past have thought, the longer I sit at my computer, the more I'll get done. The more I just keep chipping away at this, the more I force myself to keep chipping away at this, the more I'll get done. And we have both found ourselves in a cycle of burnout over and over and over and over, because we would have these sprints of information and then try and keep limping along, trying to keep up with that sprint pace without having any kind of downtime in between. And I think what you and I have gotten much better at is, like, I call them like nanny hours, which maybe that's a terrible thing to say, but during the time our son has wonderful childcare, that is when I am doing the things that I need to do, whether that be doing a sprint or taking a 30-minute lunch and reading a book just to enjoy it. Creating that kind of cadence allows me to get so much done in one day. Okay. Anything you want to add, and what question do you want to leave our listeners with?
No, I don't think we need to complicate it any more than that. But the question that I would ask is, how can you simplify your day to get more done?
Beautiful. Thank you so much for listening, and we will catch you next week.
Thank you so much for listening to The Freak Show with Sam Thurmond and me, Jaclyn Steele Thurmond. We would love to connect with you via our website, beckonliving.com, and on social media.
You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Beck and Living, and you can join our email list to receive uplifting messages, podcast and business updates, and discounts on high-frequency products just for our freaky community.
Cheers to high-frequency living.